Coming up, we've got a Sony EVS7000. This is a semi-professional high-8 VTR with PCM's digital audio with dubbing capabilities and a Time Base Corrector, and this one here is looking pretty sad. So let's get a look at this one and see what the trouble is. Yeah, I would say it has a bad picture, all right. That, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what that is. It's either a time-based error problem or a power supply problem, because a power supply problem will cause the picture to look pretty bad. So let's pull the power supply and look for, you got it, bad caps. So to get the power supply out on this one, we have to remove the base. Because there are screws that go in from the bottom that hold the power supply in place. Once the arrow marked screws removed, we can remove the bottom. The bottom just lifts off, and it is held in place by a couple of these ribbon cables. We're not going to undo these at the moment. I'm just going to set it over here. For now, I just need to get the screws that hold the power supply to the chassis. I think it's just these ones here. Should be a couple of them. One of them is already out, I think. One of them was this screw here that went through the base. I think that's the only one I have to remove. And then I can remove the power supply. So we're going to set the base back on here again. Try not to pinch any of these flat flexible cables for now. Set the base back on, turn the unit over, and remove some screws from the back, and the power supply should lift out. I think. It's been a while. There might be one more on the side over here. It's got to come out. There's one more screw right there. Okay, now the power supply should lift out. We'll hold it in place. We turn it back over. I think it'll lift out now. Couple tabs, and this should unplug. It's just all plugged into one big plug right in the middle of the board here. Couple plugs. Should be two plugs, one over here comes out and one over there. And now the power supply should lift out so that I can check it out of the machine. Just like that. Now everyone knows the reason for that copper shielding, right? You didn't know the reason? To build up heat? To make the power supplies fail sooner? Come on, you guys would have known that one, right?
Actually, it's there because there was fear that the transformers in these things would produce so much RF interference that it might interfere with some AM radio station. So they shielded with double and sometimes triple shielding the areas directly around that little flyback transformer, because that's essentially what it's operating as, operating like a little flyback transformer. High frequency, 60 kilohertz or so. No, that's not going to interfere really with AM radio, but what it will interfere with is these clocks that set themselves, that pick up radio station WWVB out of Colorado, these atomic clocks. That radio transmitter operates at 60 kilohertz. So 60 kilohertz signal coming out of one of these power supplies would actually kill the reception to all these little clocks that people have. So, guess how many caps I'm going to find before I even get in there. How many guys think I'm going to find in here? 1, 2, 3, 0? How many think are going to actually be bad? And how many am I going to replace? No cheating, no skipping ahead.
I don't see any caps that are obviously leaking. Although the symptom on the screen sure looks like a capacitor problem.
Well, duh.
So
Caps cause all the problems of things, don't they?
Whether these are bad. We'll do ESR tests on them and capacity tests and see whether their filters themselves are going bad.
Do you guys want to watch this? Me testing the capacitors on this thing?
Start on a unit like this.
Do you really want to watch this, or do you want me to skip ahead? I'll give you a clue. No caps on here are bad. But I am going to change one. And it's not because it's bad, but it looks like it may be physically starting to leak.
The caps so far don't look bad. Measuring actually not bad at all in the circuit. I was expecting to find leaking caps, but none of them appear to be bulging or leaking of any type of, like any electrolytic or anything. And looking at them in circuit, they look to be okay at this point. The only capacitor on here that even remotely resembles any type of leakage is this one here, which was C021 over the edge of the board here. This one. The rest of them, of course, all test good. I test them for capacity and ESR by disconnecting them, and they've all tested good. This one tests okay capacity-wise. What caught my eye is what looks like electrolytic that may have been leaking out of it. If we look at the cap itself, the leads look a little bit green, and right around one of the seals, it looks like it might be. It's measuring 560, and it's a 470. Let's just say, if we look right around here, it looks like there may have been something starting to leak around the seal. I'm going to change this one out, just on good measure, just to see if it changes anything that we see on the operation of this unit. So it's a 10 volt at 470. So I don't think this cap really is going to make any difference, but just because the other one looked like it had, to say, green leaking out of it, like around here, and black around the edge here, I'm just changing it out on spec. It measures fine. It's just that when I see crud leaking out of it like that, it looks like maybe this cap might be ready to go. So we'll change that one out. I'm going to check some of the ones on the primary side over here for ESR as well. And we'll even check the main filter. I can't see that being a problem. But all these other ones on the secondary, these all test good. I was looking at power supply, but the power supply, of course, tests perfect. But I think this is a Time Base Corrector problem. So I should be able to turn the Time Base Corrector off on this unit, and it's done in one of the menus here. I can find it. I think it's in Setup menu. There it is, Time Base Corrector. To turn the Time Base Corrector off. Oh, look. The picture is playing okay. So we have a Time Base Corrector problem on this one. I go back into the Setup menu, turn the Time Base Corrector on. We have a timing error on this Time Base Corrector. So let's look at the Time Base Corrector. I'm pretty sure the Time Base Corrector on this one lives in this metal box. So let's remove the Time Base Corrector from the chassis so that I can work on it. It should just unplug from here. Where does it come out? It should lift out of this box. Should be a couple tabs. It should just lift right out. Okay, there's the Time Base Corrector right there. I'm going to open it up. And be able to remove the TBC from this this box. I bet you it's full of those nasty surface-mounted electrolytic caps. What do you think? You think it's full of them? I think it is. I get a stinking suspicion that this is where the problem on this unit is. Well, at least one of the problems on this unit is going to be on here. Yep. Surface mounted electrolytic craps. Let's take a look at it. So let's just look at the ESR on a few of these craps. See if they're bad. 1.3, that's 100 microfarad at 6 volts. So yeah, 1.2 is what they say is what a good one should be. This one's 2.9, that's a little bit high. And what about this one over here? I'm sure I'm going to find some of these that are just completely open. 1.3, that one's measuring okay. I'm more looking for ones that are completely open than anything else. 13. 1.8, 6, 6.9, like this one, for example. This 1 microfarad at 50 volts is completely open. That one right there. So this will be the first one that I try on this. That one's completely open. That's probably okay. That one looks like it's open to another 1 microfarad at 50. That one's open as well, completely. And that was the first. This one here's the other one. So those two are definitely, those two here, that one and that one, those are definitely bad. We'll change the ones that are completely shot and take it from there.
I went through the entire board, and most of them are okay. You know, there were like 5 that were really bad. They were all the same value. They were all 1 microfarad, 50 volt. There's another one. Nope. See, that one's 63 ohms. So the ones that were really measuring high, I'm going to change, and the rest of the ones that are measuring okay or are close to their spec, I'm not. Let's change them.
Yeah, that one's open. It looks like it's all the 1 microfarads are bad, or really bad. I mean, they probably all could do to be replaced, but it depends on what the guy wants to spend on this one. That one's also open. The ones for sure have to go, so I'll see what I've got, and we'll swap out the ones.
I'm going to use the cut and carefully remove the pins on the board. All of these 1 microfarad caps, they have all been leaking. There's evidence that the electrolytic has spilled out onto the board. And it makes removing the pins a little more of a challenge because I don't know how bad the corrosion is and how if it may have damaged the traces. And that's always the biggest concern when working with these surface mounted caps that have leaked, is has it damaged the trace? So you got to really work slowly. I heat the pins up and remove them with the soldering iron after I've cut the cap. When you cut it off close to the base, you've removed anything that's going to apply any additional force. I cut the top off and then I break the plastic base, and then I can remove the pins relatively easy. So I'm going to change out all these 1 microfarad caps that was testing bad.
See what
the rest of them
leaking onto the board here. We got some ones at 50s here.
As I say, the rest of them are close to their spec. There's a few that were creeping up a bit, but nothing really outrageous. 2 or 3 ohms. I'd like to see them down, around 1, but the other ones are probably okay, and they'll probably be okay for a while.
Here's a low profile, just conventional 1 microfarad at 50 volts that I'm putting in here. The board's not damaged where these caps have been leaking, because some of them just spilled their guts. Not all of them have leaked, but a few of them have. You can see it on the board. The other one's over here, another one over here. Problem when you get these caps that have gone like this is getting heat transferred to the board, because of the old electrolytic that's in there that's leaked out has corroded the board, corroded the area, and you got to break through that corrosion in order to get heat to transfer, just to get the old pin out of there. There we go. That's part of the hardest part, is getting the old caps, getting the board prepped for the new ones. Okay, I think those are the worst ones. Those are all the 1 microfarads replaced, which were the ones that were in the worst shape. Let's just plug the board in and see if it's made any difference. Okay, I've got the Time Base Corrector just sitting over to the side here, plugged in. We'll go over to the menu and we'll make sure the Time Base Corrector is turned on. So menu, setup menu. Time Base Corrector, it's on. Remember the picture we had before? Do we dare press play? Oh, what do you know? Well, I got a picture. Time Base Corrector's working. DNR off, DNR standard, DNR maximum. I would say it's working. Oh, that was just a blunt edit onto something else on the tape. Let's see what else is on here. I did some recording, I guess, on this tape. I erased part of my tape. Oh, yes. I erased some of my tape. Okay, here's a tape that was shot on a professional camera. It's the Symphony of Fire, and I'm sure that there's probably PCM sound on here. Yep. Oh, maybe there's just atmosphere sound on. There's nothing on the AFM track. This camera only had 3 tracks. EVW300 recorded this. It looks good. I don't think I need to change any of those other caps on here. It was just those 4 1 microfarad that were open. This picture's looking good. Drop out on the tape. Turn that down. The music on there might get me trouble with YouTube. But this is an original tape that was shot on EVW300, which was a $12,000 high 8 camera that I had. It did a pretty good job of recording fireworks. See a little bit of lens flare though. That what you see coming in from the top, that's actually a reflection inside the lens. That was a Canon lens on there too. So I'm going to leave it at that. I think this is working good enough at this point. I could go and change all the other caps that are starting to drift a little bit, but they're not causing a problem at this point, and they could go on for years. The 1 microfarad caps all failed, and they're all likely out of the same batch, and they all failed the same way. They leaked. They're electrolytic. A few of the other ones are starting to creep up a bit in their ESR, but it's not critical at this point. It's not causing a failure at this point, so I think I'm going to leave it alone and just change the ones that had failed on it. So I'm just going to reassemble the shielding for the Time Base Corrector, and then we'll test it again. Just unplug the Time Base Corrector board again so that I can mount it back in its shielding. Lots of room for these other caps inside the shield here. It's not like it's crammed for space, right? So there's lots of room. Okay. There it is. Lay back the color bars perfectly. Kill that light. I rewound the tape.
Okay, but you're blocking our view too.
That was somebody who was upset with me. I was shooting this for the news. I was doing the fireworks shows back then. I was doing these fireworks shows with my broadcast camera, and I was doing them for the local news to show on the evening news. And I got set up when I did these fireworks shows. I got set up like hours. Like the show didn't start till like 10 o'clock at night, but I was there at probably 8. I had my camera set up and was just standing beside my camera, or sitting beside my camera more than likely, waiting for the show to start. And then when the show starts, I jump up behind the camera and start filming it. And I had this woman that was mad. She was, you're blocking my view. Well, excuse me, but I was there first of all. I was set up first, and I picked a prime viewing spot to shoot this fireworks show. And I was there like 2 hours, over 2 hours before it started. I was there like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, somewhere in there. And I'm set up over in the corner at a park, but basically right up front. And when I got there, what it is, I set my tripod up, but I didn't put the camera up on the tripod. I left my camera sitting on the ground, and I was kind of, I think I took a lawn chair with me, and I was just kind of sitting on the ground with the camera there with the tripod up. And then just before the show started, I got up and put the camera up, and now I'm standing there behind the camera looking through the viewfinder, and someone who's behind me, all of a sudden I'm in their view. It's like, well, too bad, so sad. Anyway, this one's fixed. We can just put all the screws back in and put this one back together and send it on its way. So we'll just remove the tape. I got to put the screws in the bottom as well, so we'll turn this over and lift the bottom off. Again, it comes off that way. There's a couple screws that go into the power supply that hold the power supply in. There was one there, and there was one back here. I believe there was 2 of them. Screws that probably aren't even necessary. Just there to annoy whoever's going to take the power supply out and service it, that you got to pull the bottom off it to do it. We'll put the bottom cover back on again. And then all the screws in the base to hold the bottom on. So here the unit is back together. Rewound the tape. I'll play this tape. I'm going to let it play here for a bit, but everything. Listen to this woman bitching.
When I got there, what I did is I set up my tripod, but I had my camera in its case, and I was sitting on the case. And then when the show started, I opened the case, put the camera up on the tripod, and then I stood on the case, so I was up really high. And she was not happy.
Okay, but you're blocking our view too.
See what I mean? But hey, I was doing this for CBC News, so I didn't care.
See, what she was so upset about was I set up, had my tripod there, right? And then once the show started, I got up to film the show. And they're all sitting in their lawn chairs, and now I'm standing in their way. I think when they got there and they saw me sitting here with my tripod, I think they thought I was just going to have the camera sitting there and filming, and I'd be sitting in my lawn chair. But of course, I got to work the camera to film the show. So I'm not going to be sitting down and just leaving my camera locked off. I'm actually going to have to stand there. And well, this was a pretty good sized camera. This is a big ENG camera, right? It's almost the size of a Betacam. It's huge. It sits up on your shoulder, weighs like 20 pounds. It's a massive camera that had a lens that was about, I guess the lens was probably 11 inches long. It was a big lens that was on. There was a 19 times Canon lens with a 2 times extender. Because I'm a long ways away. Like, I'm shooting the fireworks from across the water on the backside of the show. So I'm a couple miles away. I'm zoomed in there, but that's a really long lens that I had on that camera. But I got some good shots. Anyway, this one's back together. Now you know what to do in these time-based correctors when you have a picture that's all blown up like that and all that timing error. Turn the TBC off first of all, and that'll tell you. And if it clears up when you turn the TBC off, for example, see TBC is on. Whoops. You can turn the TBC off. If the picture clears up with the TBC off, then you know that the problem is in the time-based corrector. Now you know where to look. Look for all those 1 microfarad 50 volt surface mounted caps in the TBC. That's your problem. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.